everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Wood with Handles, a baseball podcast for fans, by fans. This is episode 17 for the week of August 5th. I'm Ryan.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Johnny.
As usual, before we get started, guys, wherever you're listening to this, if it's iTunes, rate us, give us feedback. YouTube, thumbs up, thumbs down if you hate us. Leave us feedback and let us know. And share this with your friends on the internet. So how you guys been this week?
It's been a pretty good week. A lot of good baseball. The Tigers have been on a roll. My Pirates are back in first place. So it's been a good week for me.
I mean, it's been a great week for me. I mean, it's actually been like a great month and a half. I mean, the Dodgers literally just lose once a week. It's that one bad day a week, and just pure joy and happiness the other 6 days. So it's good times in LA for sure.
I bet. Dodgers. While, I mean, getting started this week, I should say, trade deadline was kind of lackluster to say the least. My favorite move of the deadline was Brian Wilson signing to the Dodgers. Anybody who knows me knows how much of a fanboy I am of Brian Wilson. So this got me really excited. What you guys?
You were pretty much on cloud nine that day, weren't you?
Oh, I still am. I mean, it's my excitement hasn't dwindled at all. I'm loving it. But overall, what did you guys think of the trade deadline?
The actual trade deadline day was extremely, extremely quiet. Everybody waited for something to happen, and nothing just did happen. And MLB had resorted to fooling me and trolling the internet. So hey, great job for them.
Johnny got you good.
He did.
You text me. You were so upset.
Hook, line, and sinker. The thing is, it was good too, because it's not something out of the realm of possibility. So.
Johnny, will you let the people who are listening who don't follow you online know what you posted?
Oh, yeah. So I think right before the trade deadline was about to expire, we posted a link on MLB Meme saying that Chase Utley and Cliff Lee got traded to the Dodgers, and a link, and it just went to some stupid song and dance, that Badger video. If you've ever seen it on YouTube, if you haven't, I advise checking it out, preferably if you're inebriated, because that definitely ups the entertainment value of it. Yeah, I mean, it's just something we like to troll our audience with every once in a while. It's pretty much we're going to do it every trade deadline, and it's funny that people don't expect it. I'm pretty sure last year we did the same thing, also with Cliff Lee, but to the Yankees. It's like a little trick just to like get it to be a little bit believable, and you definitely heard Cliff Lee and Chase Utley possibly being traded, even though, I mean, that would have been a huge mega trade that went down. So it was definitely fun.
Yeah, it was really funny. I didn't believe it. Ryan texted, I was like, wait a minute, and then I got on, I clicked on it, I was like, there's no fucking way. Yeah, like I said, Brian Wilson for me was the big one, but my White Sox didn't clear house as much as I would have liked him to, but got rid of Jake Peavy in probably the biggest trade of the deadline, with three-way trade with the Red Sox and the Tigers. Tigers got Iglasious, and the White Sox got, I can't pronounce his first name.
Yadier Garcia.
There you go, but Garcia from the Tigers. And
also known as Mini Miggy.
and the White Sox were able to get rid of Peavy, which, I mean, I'm a big fan of Peavy. Anybody who knows me, we had his brother on earlier in the podcast. Overall, I'm a Sox fan and a Peavy fan, so, I mean, it's sad to see him go, but I mean, he's getting old. He needs to win a championship, and it ain't going to happen in Chicago anytime soon.
Yeah, Jake Peavy, one of the good guys of baseball. You can take the trade for what it's worth. It was probably the biggest trade of the trade deadline. Whether he won his first start last night, so he's starting off his Red Sox career on a positive note. But I mean, he's always had health issues, so hopefully it works out for him. I'm going to wait and see. But the other end of that deal was the big one for me, Jose Iglesias coming over to Detroit. It was basically, I think, a deal to cement the Tigers, because I think Peralta's probably going to be gone to a suspension here pretty quickly. So it was a great trade. They had to get rid of a really great prospect, which we said was Yadier Garcia. But great trade for the Tigers. Happy to have Iglesias here.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be a little bit nitpicky. I only consider the trade deadline to be the trades that happen on the actual trade deadline day, hours before. But I'd say absolutely the two biggest trades that went down during the whole trade period were Garza to the Rangers and Peavy to the Red Sox. I mean, those were the two biggest names. They're possible, like, number 2, number 3 starters going to teams that are in contention this year, and they definitely need the starting pitching help. The Red Sox, especially with Clay Buchholz on the DL. He might not play again this year, so, I mean, getting Peavy is pretty huge for them if they want to contend this year. I mean, Iglesias is a very good pickup for the Tigers because they really have infield problems defensively, and Iglesias I don't think is that great of a hitter, but he's definitely going to secure the infield and help the pitchers out. And I mean, they desperately need it, playing Peralta and Miguel Cabrera at third base. I mean, it's not like the worst defensive infield of all time, but it's definitely down there in the league at the moment. So that'll definitely help him out for years to come. Other than that, I mean, it was obviously a very slow trade deadline day. I think we all kind of expected it. I mean, there weren't that many big names. I mean, when the Phillies said that they were basically keeping Utley and Cliffley, Alex Rios was basically the only other big name that we didn't get to see get traded, and even that wouldn't have been that big of a deal. So, I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, you think this is going to be a ongoing thing every trade deadline? We're just going to be disappointed, or you think one year we're actually going to get a huge mega trade that's actually going to be worth watching a trade deadline special for?
I think it's gonna, every once in a while you're gonna, I don't think it's gonna be unheard of, but I think this year will kind of be how we see it go forward. I mean, with the way people value prospects now, people just aren't willing to give them up, and they're not willing to give up draft picks and prospects because, I mean, everybody wants to have the next Bryce Harper or Mike Trout or Puig. I mean, people aren't going to just give them up, and that's what the White Sox wanted, and that's why the White Sox couldn't get rid of Rios or Ramirez or a lot of these guys they wanted to give up, because they were asking, they didn't want players. They wanted minor league players. They wanted single A, double A players. They didn't want triple A players. They were looking for low end prospects, but with potential high-end return, and nobody was willing to give that up for an Alex Rios or an Alexei Ramirez. So they really struggled on kind of clearing house the way they would. I think you'll see a lot of the bigger trades, though, happen in the offseason instead of at the trade deadline.
Yeah, that's I kind of I don't really have a whole lot to add to that. I think Josh is dead on with his analysis there.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think in this last year we've seen Puig, we've seen Machado, we've seen Harper, and we've seen Trout. We've seen these guys go from just prospects to basically the entire media and all of baseball really cementing these guys as the futures of their prospective franchises, and with all this prospect hype lately. And a lot of it is to be blamed on Mike Trout in terms of what kind of insane, crazy historical year he had last year. It's really going to put a damper on the prospect market for years to come, because people don't want to give up, don't want to be looked at as a team that traded those players away. And I just to get back to Brian Wilson, I mean, I think that was just, I mean, as a Dodger fan, I think that was a huge pickup for them. I mean, I've always liked Brian Wilson, even as a Giant, even when he was on the Giants, just because he is such a colorful character. If he produces nothing for the Dodgers alone this year, I am down for him to contribute to the team just as a mascot, because he's awesome.
Well, it doesn't hurt the Dodgers at all. I mean, they're paying him $1 million to essentially a minor league contract. Like, it can only benefit the Dodgers at this point. So I like it. I mean, I view Brian Wilson the way I do LeBron James for basketball. I am not a Miami Heat fan. I am a LeBron James fan. So if LeBron James goes and plays for the Memphis Grizzlies, I will be a Grizzlies fan then. I mean, I'm the same way with Wilson. I'm currently considering the Dodgers my second team behind the White Sox, but I mean, it's only because of Brian Wilson. I like who he is. I like the character. I think he's going to have a positive side to it. I mean, they're not going to use him as closer. He's a relief pitcher, so it works for him.
You're probably the first person ever to compare LeBron James to Brian Wilson.
I'm just talking about as far as my fandom.
I know.
Another reliever the White Sox cleared out was Jesse Crain. He got traded to the Rays. This happened almost the same time we were recording our podcast last week, so this is really old news at this point, but we just didn't talk about it last week. There's not much to say. It benefits the Rays a lot. It doesn't really help the White Sox at this point at all. They didn't get anything for him at this point. Literally no money, no trades. They're waiting because Jesse Crane's still hurt, so they're going to wait till see if he gets healthy. Another big one for me that kind of snuck under the news was Ian Kennedy traded to the Padres. Like, maybe I'm wrong, and because I'm not the biggest National League fan, and I'm definitely don't know a ton about National League West. Johnny, you're probably better for this, but this seems like kind of a bigger deal.
Sorry. Go ahead, Johnny.
I just wanted to say that, I mean, I have friends that are Diamondbacks fans, and they hate Ian Kennedy, and I've always thought Ian Kennedy was a little bit overrated. He had that insane year a couple of seasons ago where it just looked like he was going to be a breakout ace, but I thought underlying numbers said it was a little bit lucky, and I think since then he's like very much regressed back to the mean, and he's an Edwin Jackson type pitcher, which, I mean, you can take that as an insult or you can take that as a compliment. I mean, Edwin Jackson just got paid $50 million in the offseason. He's a very solid pitcher, but he's not a big name pitcher that's going to carry a rotation. surely playing in Petco Park is going to help Ian Kennedy's statistical numbers. But in the end, I think he's a number 3 pitcher or a number 4 pitcher on a team, and he's more or less like the average guy. So I don't think it's a big deal.
Yeah, I don't want to read too much into this. Ian Kennedy has been really good at Petco. I think this year he's 3-1 or something. Overall, he's pretty terrible. He's 3-8 this year with a 5.23 ERA. So if this benefits the Padres, good. I think the Diamondbacks has cleared some dead weight, but I mean, a lot of what Johnny said, he's kind of a middle of the road guy. But you know, if it benefits the Padres, cool.
The thing about those starts at Petco where Ian Kennedy was pitching, I mean, he was playing against the Padres, so I mean, he's not going to have that luxury in the future.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of the next biggest news for me. I mean, again, none of this is really big news, so it's kind of hard to call it big news. But I mean, just staying on the trade deadline talk, Bud Norris got traded to the Orioles, which it already has seemed to work out good for the Orioles. It's all plus for the Orioles, and I mean, nothing can really hurt the Astros at this point. So I mean, it seems like a good move. You guys have anything to say about this?
Nothing really. Bud Norris was a pretty good young prospect for the Astros, and obviously they're trying to build for the future. So Baltimore can use all the pitching help they can get because they're right in the thick of things. But you know, good move for both the Astros and Baltimore, and we'll just kind of leave it at that. We covered this a little bit last week. Alfonso Soriano came back to New York and made a pretty quick impact in hitting a walk-off homer his very first game back with the Yankees. Guy, just got anything to add?
Not a whole lot. I mean, we already talked about the trade last week, so this is hard to put it under the trade deadline news, but he came back, walk-off home run in his first game, and already has seemed to help them a little bit. I don't think there's much that's going to happen to the Yankees that are going to help them this season. I think they're pretty fucked this season no matter what. So, no big deal for me at all. You got anything, Johnny?
No, I mean, just to backtrack a little bit, I really like the Bud Norris trade to Baltimore. I've been saying on the show for a while now, I don't really believe in Baltimore because I don't think they have good pitching help. And, I basically just agree with Ryan on the matter. Adding Bud Norris to the rotation is definitely going to be a positive. They really don't have that much this year. So, I mean, even if he's like a number 3 on most teams, that's exactly what Baltimore needs. They just need some pitching depth, and, this is definitely going to help their chances in the long run.
Yeah. Kind of the last thing to sum up our trade deadline or lack thereof. The deadline ends on the 31st, but technically there can be trades made after that. Not trades per se, but moves made based on the waiver wire. Do you guys think we're going to see any big or significant moves made here in August?
Granted that I think of what happened at the trade deadline, everything kept quiet, and I think that's probably going to be the way it is. I think a lot of people are looking for big name hitters, and they're just not out there this year. So I think it's going to be a pretty silent waiver wire a couple weeks here.
I'm not sure about in the immediate future, but because there was such a quiet trade deadline, I think teams are still trying to sort out whether or not they're buyers or sellers and if they really are in contention or not. I think there's a good chance we'll see a significant move, not to the extent like the Red Sox trading Adrian Gonzalez and Carl Crawford to the Dodgers like we did last year, but I think we could see a big name, maybe even a Cliff Lee get moved, someone on that level, just someone that's being overpaid on a very bad team that and a contender could really use. So I think we could see something like that.
I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I do have a quick question for both of you guys. Do you know, is there a reason why Philadelphia was not willing to move anybody? It seems kind of odd because you'd think the way they're going, if they wanted to get rid of both Lee and Utley or just Lee. I mean, you guys know or have heard anything of why they didn't kind of let anybody go?
My understanding of the situation is Philadelphia is not their management. They don't see it in the way of like quote unquote rebuilding. They have no interest in ever rebuilding. The way they run their organization is they just retool. So they're not looking to get prospects back for Cliff Lee. They're looking to get Max Scherzer back for him, which isn't really going to happen, and nobody's willing to offer him that. Plus, Cliff Lee has a lot of contract, and they're not really willing to eat some of that contract. So I just hear that there's not really a market out there for him.
So nobody really willing.
I could be completely wrong about that, though.
Yep, nobody really willing to deal picks. Not picks, but players for either Lee or Utley. Just nobody out there to move.
That was my understanding, but I could be wrong. I don't know. Do you know anything else, Johnny?
I just know from just following baseball that Philadelphia has a very unorthodox management compared to everyone else. They're not very big on sabermetrics, and they're very proud of it. And they just do things differently. I mean, I think they just want to be. I mean, they've built such a reputation of being such a big buyer a couple of years ago that they don't really want to just tear the team apart. That's my understanding of it. And if nobody's going to give them anything good for Cliffley, they'd just rather hold on to it, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me because even if you're not going to get that much for Cliffley, it seems like an awful waste of money to spend on a starting pitcher when you don't really, when you're not in contention this year. But I mean, it's their money; they can do what they want. I know Jonathan Papelbon is really unhappy about being in Philadelphia right now. He was
pitching like it too.
He doesn't like about how he didn't sign up to be such a big to sign up for so many years to be on a non-contending team, and he's very upset. I just think Jonathan Papelbon needs to really shut up because I mean he wanted out of Boston, or Boston wanted out of him, and now he's praising Boston. But part of the reason why Boston's doing well right now is because they didn't spend $50 million on a closer, and I mean a lot of why Philadelphia is struggling is because they've tied up so much of their assets in a few older players, and it's really preventing them from growing.
Something kind of I didn't put on our list of topics this week, guys, but I wanted to get your opinion on it. They talked a little bit on baseball tonight. Do you guys think we're going to see the trade deadline moved? Either moved back into August or moved up to the beginning of July, basically the All-Star break?
I don't really know why it would move. The only thing I can think is they would try and move it back to maybe I'm sorry, not move it back, but move it up to farther in the season, so teams can maybe sort out a little bit after the All-Star break and kind of let things fall apart. But I guess for me personally, I'm good with where it's at. I don't see a reason for it to be moved.
I don't know whether they will or not, but I would like them to move it back. I mean, back as in later into the season than it is currently, just to give more separation between the All-Star break and just it's just a little too soon, I think, for some teams to determine whether they want to go all in or not, and I think that prevents a lot of trades from happening. So I would rather see it later in the season when things are a little bit more determined and we actually can see bigger moves happen. So that's my preference anyway.
All right. We talked a lot about the trade deadline already. The other news that happened kind of early last week that we didn't have a chance to talk about on last week's podcast was Derek Jeter's return to the Yankees. Basically, he came back the same night Soriano hit his walk-off home run, and his first at-bat, Jeter was able to hit a home run. He's done all right since he's been back, but now he is out again. Basically, same injured leg. But it's more sore now. He's been sat out for this weekend, should be back early next week. Is this a big deal for the Yankees, guys?
I don't know if it's a big deal, but I think it's an issue for Jeter because only being able to play a few games here and there and have to sit out 2 or 3 games due to soreness in his leg or whatever's going on with his body. I think it's definitely, Johnny, I think you said it last week where you kind of had some concerns about him staying healthy the rest of the year. So I think it's definitely a little bit troubling. I guess I don't want to read too much into it because it might just be he played a little bit, so they're going to give him a few days off because his ankle is still a little tender. But hopefully this doesn't become a huge issue.
It seems like it's going to be an issue all season long, and it doesn't seem like they're going to push them the further back they fall in the standings. I mean, they're still 5 games above 500 at the moment, but the gap is really widening. They're 8.5 back from the Red Sox. I'm not sure the wild card standings. They are currently 3.5 back, so they still have a possibility to make the wild card. They really just need to, start winning some games, and they definitely need Jeter in the lineup. And that's saying a lot because Jeter's not even that great anymore. I mean, he's still a good and positive impact, but, they need all the help they can get at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I like Jeter as a Yankee. I want him to do good. It sucks to see him this way. I think it might be time for him to think about retiring or taking an extended DL or not DL, but DH spot. I don't know. I don't know that he can do this for forever at this point. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and it seems that Jeter's not the only one having a bit of injury problems right now. There's a couple real big names that have been out for the last few days. I think most notably Miguel Cabrera is on he's day-to-day right now with a left ab strain. He hasn't played in the last 4 days. Hasn't really mattered much for the Tigers, but anything you guys want to add?
I mean, my White Sox are currently playing the Tigers and getting their ass kicked by them, so I like that he's not playing, even though it doesn't seem to help us at all. But it sucks. I mean, Miguel Cabrera makes baseball fun for all of us. I mean, he's amazing, probably the best hitter, if not of all time, definitely right now for sure.
Of all time. Whoa.
I mean,
I think he could be considered all time. I mean, if he has a few more really great years, I think you could put him up there in that conversation.
Yeah, and I mean, he for me, I mean, other than the young guys, the Puigs, the Trouts, the Harpers or whatever, I mean, I think he is kind of somewhat the face of baseball at this point. And
so you're saying you don't think that he's overrated?
Oh, he's completely overrated because I'm a Tigers hater. But in reality, I mean, he's really good. And I mean, it sucks that for him that he's not going to be able to play right now. And I mean, not that I ever believed that it was really going to happen, but any thoughts at a Triple Crown aren't going to happen if this man can't get on the field and play.
Yeah, he's not that far back in RBIs and home runs. I mean, if Davis keeps going like he is, and he's not going to get it. But I think it's just precautionary on the Tigers' part. They knew they had a stretch coming up against the White Sox. I think and then they have a series against Cleveland, which starts tomorrow, which is the big one. So you'll see him back in the lineup tomorrow. I just think they kind of gave him a precautionary few days off.
I mean, he's definitely the best hitter in the world right now and has been for well over a year. It does look like he's not going to – I would feel very strong in predicting he will not overcome Chris Davis in home runs at this point, especially with him going to need rest days here and there to be healthier for the postseason, which is going to make for an extremely interesting AL MVP discussion at the end of the season if Miguel Cabrera has to miss time. We have like a 3-man race at the moment between Cabrera, Davis, and Trout, and the more games Miguel Cabrera misses, the more arguments we can generate for the other two. So I really look forward to what should be a very interesting AL MVP discussion at the end of the year. Moving right along to the face of basically the St. Louis Cardinals, which is the team to beat in the National League. Yadier Molina hit the 15-day DL with the knee strain. How do you think this will affect the team?
He's definitely the best hitter on that team, and he's been the best. I guess he's been the best player on one of the better teams this year. I mean, he's hitting .330 right now, which is tops on his team, and he was their all-star. He's been kind of the guy leading the team. I think this impacts St. Louis a little more than anybody would want to admit because St. Louis has been on a bit of a slide and they're missing their leader right now. So I hope he gets better soon because the Cardinals are going to really need him down the stretch. The Pirates are playing really well, and they're going to need him to if they're going to have any chance of catching the Pirates. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this to me is huge. I think the Cardinals are good enough to still at least gain wild card out of the National League. I mean, I think they could even beat the Pirates still, but I mean, they're a really good team, but he is far and away the best player on that team. I mean, it's not even like he's not just kind of their best player. I mean, he is far above and beyond the best player on that team. And from what I know and listening to other interviews and reading things, he's the leader of that clubhouse. I mean, sure, if he's injured, he's still going to be in that clubhouse, but I mean, it's definitely going to be a huge setback for them.
Yeah, I would say he's definitely the most valuable player on the team. I'm not necessarily sure if he's the best hitter on the team. I know Carlos Beltran's had a great season, Carpenter, and other guys. I mean, they definitely have a lot of good hitters, but just what he brings defensively in terms of base runners not being able to run because Molina's probably the best in the game at throwing guys out. What he manages to do calling a game for that great rotation St. Louis has between Shelby Miller, Wainwright, Lance Lynn, etc. He's by far the most valuable player on the team, and they're the best team in the National League. And there's going to be a very strong consideration for him to win the NL MVP. So, I mean, the Cardinals need him back ASAP. Moving right along to my Dodgers and Yasiel Puig with a left thumb contusion, I believe, the other day. Or it was just a bruise. I'm not really sure, but I'm not too worried about it. I mean, we're talking about the same guy that ran into the wall and the wall hit the DL. So, what do you guys think?
First and foremost,
Yep.
That catch that he bruised his thumb on, holy shit! Like, I mean, if you're listening to this and you haven't seen it, go back and watch. I mean, or no, he bruised it on the slide, but the catch during that game, like an inning before. that was just nuts. He ran into the wall, bounced off the wall. The ball hit the top of the wall, came back down, and he caught it as he was sitting.
Yeah, he didn't catch it though. The ball hit the wall.
It technically wasn't a catch.
No.
I mean, it was ruled an out. I mean, it was ruled a drop.
I mean, it was a really cool play, but I mean, the ball hit the wall first, which disqualifies it from being a catch or an out.
Good try, good effort.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool to see. I mean, he made some amazing plays. And that's one of I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit off track of what the actual topic was, but Puig every time I see this guy, he's going all out. He's flying all over the field, diving, throwing his body all over the place. But I think like Johnny said, I'm not going to read too much into the injury. I think it's just going to be, he came out of the game early and he probably won't play today, but I think you won't see him out for too long. He basically just turned his hand over trying to make a diving catch yesterday. So I think they're just going to keep him out today to probably, for, just trying to make him feel a little bit better. But awesome.
Yeah. I don't have much to say. I mean, I don't think it's going to matter too much. It's always scary when someone of his status gets hurt, but I think he'll be fine. The other big Puig news this week happened very earlier in the week, almost probably before we even released the podcast, but I believe it happened after we recorded again. A lot of news last week.
On Sunday night, actually.
Yeah, we always record Sunday mornings, and a lot happened Sunday night. Yadier Puig hit a walk-off home run, his first of his pro career, and slid into home plate. While I think the three of us on the show will agree it was awesome and hilarious, baseball fans as a whole, at least the response I've read, were not too happy with it. What do you guys think about this?
Before we start on this topic, is there some kind of unwritten rule that has to do with this about baseball players sliding into home?
I wouldn't know. It's unwritten.
Oh, hey, yeah, so you could call. But, this was, I mean, it's just him celebrating. I'm not going to sit here. It seems like people are just trying to kill him for the sake of killing him because
that's how I feel.
A lot of people hate him.
Trying to find reasons to dislike him.
Yeah, I mean, players celebrate when they hit walk-offs. They throw their helmets. They jump onto the plate. I don't see how this is any different than somebody running into the pack at home plate and jumping on home plate. He just slid into the player. I mean, I guess somebody could say, oh, yeah, he slid with his cleats up and slid into other players. But, I mean, if you're saying that, you're just looking for something to hate him on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge baseball fan. It's my favorite sport. But in terms of America right now, you can't really argue that in terms of popularity, it's behind basketball and football. And I think one of the major reasons behind this is not because of the game itself. It's because there really aren't that many characters in baseball in terms of known on a national level. Because anytime someone tries to do something worthy of getting national attention and actually getting some personality, there's the half of conservative baseball fans that just try to slander the person, talk about how baseball needs to be pure, and we just get this backlash against these Puigs and these Harpers, but they don't understand that unless people are watching the game, no one's going to really give a damn, and you really need the sport to be entertaining. I mean, baseball is a great sport as is. I'm sure we can all agree on that, but you need entertaining aspects in baseball to make it more reachable to the masses. And just these people that are tearing down Puig for this just really need to get a life, in my opinion, because it's funny, it's great for the game, and I would fully support anyone doing this on any team, even if it was the Giants against the Dodgers. So I think we need a lot more of it instead of bitching about the one or two times it happens.
Yeah, and you say that baseball is just now starting to catch up in popularity. I felt like over the last few years, it's really done a lot to bring people back to the game and make people fall in love with the game.
Well, I think the young guys are what help it, though. I think you got these new young players, the Puigs, the Machados, the Trouts, the Harpers. I mean, the Wil Myers, who we'll get to in a little bit here. Chris Davis. I mean, Chris Davis, while not that young, and he's a younger guy.
He's a new name.
Yeah, I mean, I think these are what help the sport. I mean, sure, Miguel Cabrera, first triple crown since, what was it, 76, I think. I mean, yes, that's huge and that helps. But I mean, the young guys are what's boosting this popularity.
Yeah, and I think we can all kind of agree that one thing that is not helping baseball right now is Alex Rodriguez and this ongoing PED talk and the suspensions and the dark cloud that's kind of looming over the game of baseball right now. I think it was announced yesterday that coming Monday, A-Rod is rumored to be, well, just not A-Rod, but A-Rod's going to have the biggest suspension, which is going to be basically the rest of the year and then all of next year. And then a lot of guys are going to get 50 games. I guess I'll kind of let you guys start on this.
Well, before we even get started, we're just going to assume, because we are recording this on a Sunday and all this is going to come out tomorrow, we're going to assume the rumors that we have heard are true. A-Rod will be suspended for 214 games starting tomorrow. Everyone else will receive 50-game suspensions.
Yeah, and A-Rod's scheduled to come off the DL again tomorrow.
Yes, he's scheduled to be with the Yankees tomorrow. If he appeals, apparently he might be able to play, but Bud Selig apparently has shit on him that he's been tampering with evidence, and if he does, that means they'll be able to suspend him and he won't be able to play through appealing. Either way, I like the suspension. I think it's a long time, which is what we wanted. We all wanted him to be gone for a long, long time. But the big thing that was brought up this week is if he gets banned from the game, the Yankees get to clear that salary cap. And so this is going to make the Yankees still have to pay him something at some point in time. They don't get to get out from underneath that Alex Rodriguez thing, which, other than Ryan, who is a new Yankees fan, and yes, I'm just giving him a hard time.
Yeah.
As Yankees haters, we should like that they're going to have to pay that money to him. But he's going to be gone from a long time. By the time Alex Rodriguez can come back to the game, he's going to be, I believe, 40 years old. Either he's going to have to retire, or he's going to try to play, and he's not going to be good enough to make a team, or the Yankees are going to keep him in the minor leagues. I mean, I really like where this is headed.
I don't like where this is headed at all, just because, I mean, he hasn't really failed a drug test like Ryan Braun did, I believe. I mean, there's a lot of rumors of evidence tampering, but I'm pretty sure Melky Cabrera tried to invent a website last year to try to clear his name. So, I mean, I think that's pretty much on the same level of culpability in terms of dishonesty. I think for him to be suspended for a year and a half and Ryan Braun to only be suspended half a year, I think it's a little injustice in my opinion. I don't think he should be suspended more than this year. And I don't like how this is forcing out one of the best players in all of baseball history, kind of forcing him into retirement because he's not as good right now as he was a few years ago. I mean, he was really struggling these last season and a half. In a year and a half from now, I mean, we're basically talking about the 2015 spring training. He's not going to be good. I mean, he wasn't going to be good this year. I mean, I can't see him being more than a platoon type player in 2015 or like a part-time player. So, I mean, I don't really like the fact that baseball is in a way disrespecting its own history by letting such a legendary player go out like this. And I know he did roids and I know he's not innocent, but come on, like a lot of people did. And just because he was the best while doing it, I mean, I don't think he should be vilified to the extent that he is.
I think the reason he's getting it so bad, though, is the lying. And apparently, from what I've heard, what he did, it wasn't just made a fake website. He sent his lawyers or he sent somebody to the biogenesis place to get basically the evidence that baseball was going to have. And he had it brought back to somewhere. I don't know. We don't know everything. We'll find out a lot tomorrow, and I'm sure
I'm looking forward to reading it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it more on next week's show. But, I mean, the rumors that I've heard are that, and I mean, I think that is more intense than creating a fake website for yourself, and I think that is worse than Ryan Braun. Ryan Braun didn't do anything to get through that loophole. The FedEx driver, whoever the fuck it was that worked for that place,
they took the fall for it.
Yeah, they fucked up. Ryan Braun didn't fuck up. He got by. Like, it was lucky as hell that he got by, but he got by on nothing that he was able to do. He was that close to being suspended, and that FedEx dude fucked up. So.
Josh, see, here's the thing. I feel like I'm kind of caught between the two of you. Josh, I feel like you've said it publicly and you make it known you hate A-Rod. You wanted him to be banned for good.
I do.
And Johnny, I respect your opinion. I mean, you said you think it's bad for the game. I think A-Rod probably got the better of the options. I think it was either this or the lifetime ban. And I don't think a lifetime ban would have been good for the sport of baseball. It would have been a bad PR move. A-Rod's probably definitely he's not going to be able to do anything for the rest of his career. But I mean, I think the thing that baseball is hoping on right now, and I think A-Rod got the blunt of the suspension because he's just the biggest name. And I think it was a little bit of a witch hunt on his part. I don't care for the guy. I don't like him at all. But at the same time, I think what Bud Selig wants him to do is just basically go away, not say anything, let this thing die down. Hopefully nothing resurfaces during the rest of the year or next year. And then they're going to let him come back and see what happens from there. But I think whether it had to be either this or the lifetime ban. So I think A-Rod probably this is probably the best option for him right now.
Yeah, everything I keep reading online, I have Twitter pulled up right now, and over on Wood with Handles, we follow just about many news sources as we can, and it's like literally streaming on the screen right now, and everyone's saying he's going to appeal. And I mean,
Bud Selig's not going to let him appeal.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be an interesting week. I mean, I think it really depends on the evidence they have, and what leads me to believe that they have really good evidence is Ryan Braun didn't even argue. They came to him, and they had so much evidence on him, and it was so bad that he chose not to even argue and just take the suspension. Sure, he admitted to it, which gave him a lesser suspension, but I think if that's saying how it's going to be, and I think if the rest of these players who from what we know, I believe there's going to be like 19 other players, are going to admit to it and just take their bans, the Johnny Peraltas and the Nelson Cruzes are going to do it and just take it so they can be back for the playoffs, it's going to put even more evidence in Bud Selig's plate. I do agree that a lifetime ban wouldn't be the best for the sport of baseball, but at the same time, I mean, for me, someone I personally follow on Twitter the other day said if we could at the trade deadline traded Pete Rose's lifetime ban for Alex Rodriguez's, I would be great. I mean, it's. For me, I would I don't think, I know we've talked about it before and we're beating a dead horse here, so I don't want to keep going on it, but I would much rather have Pete Rose in the sport than Alex Rodriguez. Alex Rodriguez to me is a scumbag. Pete Rose to me, fucked up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, I mean, if you guys want to keep talking about this, but are you guys good? Do you feel like we've covered this?
I think we're good. I think we're good.
I agree.
I mean, yeah, we'll have more to talk about next week, obviously. So
this conversation is going to, I mean, in general, like we have plenty of more time to cover this in the future. It's not going to go anywhere.
No.
Yeah, and speaking to something on a more positive note, we've talked a lot, probably endlessly about Yasier Puig and how much he's impacted the game in baseball. But there's a rookie over on the other side that plays for Tampa Bay Rays by the name of Wil Myers. He hit his 8th home run today. And currently he's hitting .327. He has a .370 OBP, .513 slugging percentage, and then an OPS of .883. I guess kind of silently been way better than Puig's been. You guys got anything?
I wouldn't say way better, but I got to see Wil Myers in Durham. I was down there a couple months ago, and I went to a Bulls game, and I've said it before on the show. I mean, the kid's got talent. He was, I mean, far and away better than any of the minor league players on the field. He got called up about 2 weeks after I was down there, and I mean, the kid's got mad talent. But I would say Puig's better still.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely not say he's outshining Puig. If anything, it's very close. And when you factor in style and pizzazz, I mean, Puig takes the cake by a lot. Let's be serious now. But but Wil Myers has been very impressive and really underlines that trade at the beginning of the season. James Shields for Wil Myers. A lot of people thought trading Wil Myers to the Royals, such a guy that had so much potential. He was minor league player of the minor league player of the year last year, and he's under team control for 6 more years. And we kind of think that Kansas City really panicked just by having the GM trying to go in a win now mode, and they got James Shields in the trade, who's been phenomenal so far. I mean, he's been anything that they thought James Shields was going to be, he's actually done for them. He's been a very solid, very good pitcher for them. But Wil Myers, I mean, has been very impressive and is going to be under team control for 6 more years. And it was just a huge trade for the Rays to get this guy, and kind of a steal in my opinion. I mean, like we talked about earlier in the show, you don't see these mega prospects getting traded. Wil Myers was the exception this last offseason, and it's working out tremendously for the Rays. And even with only half a season, I mean, he has a decent chance at getting Rookie of the Year. And not just that, I mean, the Tampa Bay Rays are a World Series contender this year. They've been absolutely phenomenal in the second half and towards the end of the first half. And we could see this guy have some playoff moments this year.
Yeah, Wil Myers, well, okay, I may have overstated it. Maybe he's not having a better year as far as all around years compared to Puig, but I mean, he's definitely been one of the catalysts for the Rays run.
Absolutely.
And the other guy who's kind of coming back to life a little bit here, had a little bit of a slow start to the second half, is Chris Davis. He just hit his 40th home run. Was it yesterday or the day before? But he seems like he's picked it back up again here.
I was so excited about this because last week Johnny talked about how much he wasn't nervous about him at all and everything was fine. And we went until Friday night and I was like, he's going to go 2 weeks now, no home runs. And Johnny said 2 weeks and we would be worried. And then 2 days in a row hits home runs. So it's great to see Chris Davis back. I like him. I have nothing against him. I thought it was definitely worrisome to see him decline so crazy. And I mean, after all the talks of the home run derby messes up your swing and all the slumps that people go on after this. And I mean, I like Chris Davis. Awesome that he's hitting the 40th home run. Anything to stop Miguel Cabrera from getting the second Triple Crown, I'm all down for it.
Hater.
Yep. So I like it.
He had 3 home runs in the span of 4 games, starting on the 30th of July. I mean, that's just been his MO all season. He has these tremendous hot streaks, and then everyone writes him off. I'm like, oh yeah, it's Chris Davis. He's going to fall back apart. But he just keeps on impressing and he keeps on coming back. And I feel like we're just going to see that for the rest of the season. I mean, we might see like a week or two where he doesn't hit a home run, and then we'll see maybe like 5 in a few games. So he's definitely, I would say, the premier power hitter in the game right now. I mean, I think a couple of years ago we could have said it was Jose Bautista, maybe Prince Fielder. But right now, Chris Davis is the best home run hitter in the game today. And I mean, I definitely think without injury he's going to hit well above 50 home runs. I will not like go out on a limb and say he's going to hit 61, but he's definitely going to hit in the mid 50s. I think if he just stays healthy for the rest of the season, he is all that.
Yeah, and the good thing about Chris Davis, and maybe people overstate his value or whatnot, or understate him, whatever. He hits a lot of home runs, and regardless of what anybody says, home runs are what people come to watch. So he makes the Orioles entertaining just for the pure fact that people are coming out to see him hit home runs. And as he gets closer to that, I mean, if he does get closer to that 61 mark, it's going to be something that's positive for baseball. And it's just going to be something that's going to keep people interested, even if in both Chris Davis and the Orioles, even if the Orioles aren't for some reason relevant at that point.
Yeah, I agree. I like it. I agree with you that home runs are what makes the average person who's not a big baseball fan watch. I mean, home runs are the slam dunks of baseball. I mean,
absolutely.
It's what the average person would want to see. That's why things like the home run derby exist. I mean, that's why we focus on the home run records, the Babe Ruths, Hank Aaron's, depending on how you view it, the Barry Bonds. So I mean, I like it. I don't know, again, that he'll get into that 60 area if he's having these big week and a half, 2 week slumps like he currently is. But if he keeps at the pace he's going, he's definitely going to hit over 50. I mean, he's only got 10 more to go, and I think it would be a huge downfall if he couldn't hit 10 more home runs before the end of the season, especially for a guy who's probably going to make the playoffs at this point. So, I mean, awesome for him. I mean, awesome for the sport. It's just nothing but positivity for everybody around.
Well, that's our show for the week. Just a reminder, you can find us on Facebook and Twitter by searching Wood with Handles.
If you're, as I said in the beginning, if you're listening to this anywhere with iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, however you consume this show, like us, favorite us, thumbs up, subscribe, all that stuff helps us more than you can even know, and it's only one click to do it.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Johnny.
Thanks for listening, everybody.